People forget to live when they're so caught up in what others will think. Being your true self is your gospel to the world. And we are back with another reflection on the daily Vedantic. And today's reflection is on a conversation that I had last week with a community member here on the west side of LA, an educator for more than 20 years, and now a friend through a handful of experiences in the last few months. His name is David Ludwig, and he is a teacher at our little girl's school. And earlier this year, he was diagnosed with ALS. For a Magic Mind related conversation, I got to chat with him and had a great long form conversation with him for the Magic Minds podcast that we feature clips on our Magic Mind Instagram channel. So you can go find that episode or the clips from that episode on the Magic Mind Instagram. And one of the most meaningful things that he said in the conversation, for me at least, one of the biggest takeaways I had was he talked about how people forget to live when they're so caught up in what others will think. It didn't have much to do with ALS. It didn't have much to do with a terminally ill experience. It had more to do with his observation on life. And he said, whether it's a fourth grader, a sixth grader, or a parent that's 45 years old, so many of us walk into a room and our first thought is, what are people going to think of me? What do people think of me? The seventh grader is validated or invalidated by perceived thoughts from the classmates. Is she thinking about me? I'm thinking about her. Is he thinking about me? What is he thinking about me? And it was interesting. He said it in this way where it's, whether it's a fifth grader, a seventh grader, or a 45-year-old parent, first thing we think about when we walk into a room for so many of us is, what are other people thinking about me? And it changes us. These illusory perceptions of what they're thinking, what they could be thinking, what was said, what was meant by what was said. It can be like the donkey with a carrot that follows the carrot endlessly. It's not like the donkey with the carrot 3 feet in front of it ever gets the carrot. That 3-foot distance could take the donkey 1,000 miles and still not get the carrot. And these thoughts of, what are people thinking about me? They can take us thousands of miles from where we wanted to go, where we wanted to be. Thousands of miles from peace, from prosperity, because we are in the prison, the 4-word prison of what will people think? On the philosophical side, on the spiritual side of things, so much of the tension we have, the central tension perhaps in our lives, is what we want and what others want of us. That can be on the selfish side of things. That can be on the philosophical side of things. This strange dynamic takes place on the spiritual side of things, where maybe we want to pursue a certain path, but we're so worried of what will others think. Are others going to feel invalidated? Are parents, our friends going to feel judged? Are they going to feel a way that we don't want them to feel? Or are they going to feel towards us in a way that we don't want them to feel towards us? We want to be cool. We want to be accepted. We want to belong. And will this path that I feel an inner pull towards, will this actually make me not belong? A 4-word prison. What will people think? I remember thinking this. I've thought this in a very significant way a dozen times in the last 10 years of Eastern philosophical study. Certainly thought this in college when I would attend church regularly. And I didn't party as hard as my friends. And trust me, I had some cervezas. Cervezas were had. But around my late 20s, I got to a point where I started to drink a lot less. I had tried to do everything. It's almost like I had exhausted it through experience, tried to do everything to check all the boxes of what would be cool in other people's minds, and found it so wanting that I think I was kind of done with the exterior belonging, the exterior pursuit of validation. I still have bouts of that, to be sure. But something clicked when chasing that left me exasperated. Chasing that took me to 7 cups of coffee a day, the ER with a heart condition with so much stress. And burning at both ends was like, that's underselling it. But when I started to listen to this inner path, there was all these milestones of what will people think if I remember when I was telling friends that I was going vegetarian, and I was like, I remember my wife thinking, okay, if I tell her this is gonna rattle just the harmony of making meals at home, and it didn't at all. Dialing back drinking to now really not drinking at all. It's never been a point of friction with any friend. If anything, every dinner with 4 or 5 friends where I mention that, oh no, I'm going to have water or I'm going to have a mocktail, it gives one of those 5 friends permission to not drink that night, or as what happened to a group of friends recently, one of those 5 stopped drinking altogether. It turns out, and the list goes on with all of these examples, waking up early, not, leaving a dinner at 9 instead of staying out till 10 or 11 with friends, giving permission to another friend to say, yeah, actually, I'm going to head home right now too. I'm exhausted. Waking up early. And a friend of mine, Ajay, that has been a friend of mine for 12 years. And when I told him about waking up early 4 or 5 years ago, the power of it, I think his straight up verbatim response was, that's such bullshit. Older people always talk about how great it is to wake up early. Like, big deal. Give me some other tips in life that would be great for my productivity, because he was asking about productivity tips. And then about 2 years ago, I get a text from him saying, dude, waking up at 7 a.m. has been amazing. I feel like I'm twice as productive every single day when I wake up about an hour and a half earlier. And I laughed because it was like, yeah, well, I also know that people just need to be at a certain place in life to hear these things. So I kind of laughed more from like, this is exactly how it goes. You do something and a friend laughs, scoffs, puts their nose up at it, and then 3 years later, they're modeling it. And here is the salient point. When you disconnect from that prison of what will people think, you become a lighthouse for your community. In direct and indirect ways. You might not know it. It might take 3 years before it has a positive effect on person X or Y. But when you decide to be true to yourself, you become a walking lighthouse for your community. Yes, 1 out of 10 people might shun you, might say, we don't like the new you, but 9 out of 10 will take a second look, take an audit of themselves. We say this on the podcast all the time. The most important work we do for others is the work we do on ourselves. And if you embody someone that is not in this prison of what will people think, you give permission to everyone around you. You give permission to everyone around you to be true to themselves. Being your true self is your gospel to the world. You might not see it immediately, and like I said, 1 out of 10 might have some visceral reaction, but 9 out of 10, and even that visceral reaction, like my friend Ajay, could result 3 years later in a revelation. But for the other 9 out of 10, you might get them to reflectively think for themselves, to do a self-audit, to improve something that they have an inner voice that has been telling them to improve, but they're stuck in that same prison. But when you break free from that prison, you shed light everywhere you go with stronger relationships, with stronger community, and a stronger sense of self within you that gains more and more momentum to where you wake up one day and you will be free from the prison that sadly so many of us live our entire lives within. That is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.